Stephen Howard is a leadership expert, ESPN college basketball analyst, former NBA player, and collegiate All-American. At DePaul University, Stephen was the first and last member of the men's basketball team to be named First Team Academic All-American, and as a senior, earned the prestigious Anson Mount Scholar Athlete Award, which is given annually to the nation's premier scholar athlete. Stephen played 4 years in the NBA for the Seattle Supersonics, San Antonio Spurs, and the Utah Jazz, including the 1996 to 1997 Jazz team that went to the NBA Finals against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. After the NBA, Stephen lived in 12 different countries, including France, Spain, China, and Israel, immersing himself in the unique cultures of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. He then joined ESPN as a college basketball analyst and Fox Sports as a studio analyst for the NBA's Oklahoma City Thunder and New Orleans Pelicans. Having spent all of his adult life participating, watching, and studying leadership at the highest level, Stephen founded the Leadership Syndicate, an organization dedicated to Elliott leadership mastery, empowering communities, and the importance of leaving a legacy. He has a master's in organizational leadership and speaks to adults and youth around the globe about channeling their inner leader, setting their minds on success, the lessons that come from overcoming adversity, and the importance of intentionality as they venture out to set and achieve goals.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of In Love With Me, where we feature inspiring individuals who will share their amazing stories. I am your host, Mafae Yunon Velasco, and for this series, our topic is being empowered during quarantine. For this episode, we have an empowered man, former NBA player, leadership expert, Fox Sports and ESPN analyst, and a dad to motivate us to take action. So without further ado, let's welcome the amazing Stephen Howard. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
You forgot
So
one
much to
thing.
talk about.
You forgot one thing with my intro.
What?
Your husband's favorite teammate of all time. You forgot
I
that.
knew you'd say something like that. Well, speaking of Nick, you probably see him later. But I know you've been busy during this quarantine period. But before I ask you what you've been up to, can you please share how you are the empowered and inspiring man that you are today?
Really, I created a lot to my parents. I was fortunate to be raised by educators, and I had great leadership examples from my parents. My mom was a middle school principal. My dad was a high school counselor, and you know, throughout my whole life, you know, all moments were teachable moments. And you know, when I was studying for my master's, and I was looking at all these great leadership examples that I had played with or that I had been exposed to. At the end of all this kind of introspective, and looking at all these different type of examples, I realized that my parents were really the best leadership examples that I've ever had, and I'm very fortunate for that. That and just I think the ability to evolve as a person. I've never been anyone that felt like I was above learning something new or better than anyone, and you know, that allows you to grow as a person. And you know, everyone knows, regardless of how big you are or how big you think you are, life will humble everyone. So you know, I've been fortunately blessed to have a great circle around me that has helped me grow as an individual. You know, I'm on a constant journey of evolution and growth.
And what's amazing is that we have so much to talk about. I mean, like your intro alone pretty much is like, wow factor. But there's one thing that really stands out to me. And, you know, Nick always talks about this. He's so proud about you being an academic All-American. Can you share with everyone what does that mean?
So you know, when you play college basketball, everybody knows about the All-American, you know, like a Shaquille O'Neal, you know, Michael Jordan, and then an academic All-American, the best on the court and the best in the classroom. And so when I got to DePaul University, I made that as a goal my freshman year, and I was going to ever do that. And, at my university, DePaul, I'm the only one who ever achieved that. So that's probably one of my one of the things that I'm most proud of as an accomplishment is achieving that.
Mm-hmm. And then now that you have your own leadership skills company, I think that's the main reason why you built that, right? Because that you wanted to share this, this success with the youth. Can you share a little bit about what you do as far as giving back?
What I do is I teach elite individuals to inspire. And it's kind of like if you were to get a child and take them to a park, and this child had never seen a bicycle before, or anyone riding a bike and could ride a bike, they wouldn't know what to do. But if you brought them to a park and there are other kids there, and you said, "Hey, ride a bike," and just let them see these other kids, they could figure it out. Not everybody has been around these top leadership examples that I've been around throughout my life. And from high school, up until now with ESPN, I've been exposed to the top 1% of leadership and success, with the NBA, with ESPN. And so I really just created that to expose elite leaders to that next level, to help them achieve, kind of that stratospheric type of success and leadership skills that most people only dream about. And a part of that is bringing them up to empower them as well. All the studies that have been done have shown that the earlier that you children to leadership examples, the better off they're going to be.
And we need more people like you. This one big passion that I love to achieve is also share what we have experienced and how we overcame it to the youth. Because perfect example, the song of Michael Jackson, "The children are the future." So speaking of dreams, right? The NBA is a dream for a lot of young athletes, a lot of men, and you have achieved that. So what did it take for you to get to that level? I mean, how does someone achieve this? Because it's a special experience to have.
It was difficult because even though I was able to achieve that, I wasn't drafted. So, draft night, I had 4 NBA teams that told me I was an NBA material. And one thing that I've learned from that journey is that confidence has no competition. Meaning that if you're confident in your ability, you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. And I had to go about and create a journey and a path for me to achieve that dream of being an NBA player. And I think one of the biggest attributes that I have is that resiliency to not accept no. And when those NBA teams said, "Hey, you're not an NBA player," I said, yes, I am. And I went about to achieve that. And it was a difficult journey, and it's one that I can look back on fondly of, and something that not too many people have accomplished. But I think that's when you have to go through your really inner strength, that confidence in yourself, and draw upon parts of your being that you might not know existed before.
And I'm sure, just seeing the Last Dance brought back a lot of memories. And one thing I love about
The Last Dance originally was supposed to be a documentary about me. Then they came to me and they said, you know what? We're going to make this about Michael. We're going to do him a solid. He hasn't had much going on in his life, and it's positive. And so I was like, okay, you can do that. But just know, I'm not going to be interviewed. Just, and so they were like, all right, cool. So they just had a couple of cameos of me. So it was cool.
Oh my gosh! No, the one thing that I really love about that is that of course, I grew up watching that era, and it was like such an amazing batch of players. Do you think that you guys had more of advantage of not having so much social media?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without and I think that's one of the reasons why there was so much hype about the Last Dance, because what most people knew about Michael Jordan was just little snippets here or there. Nowadays, NBA players, everything about them because they're either tweeting about it, showing their family on Instagram, now on TikTok. And Michael Jordan had this speak, and most people didn't know that our nickname for him was Black Cat and Black Jesus. Little things like that, and the little nuances that he had, and little things that we went through as NBA players. And so I think that's one of the reasons why that was so successful. But also to your point, that was a huge benefit for us, because nowadays, with the cameras being on all the time, you have people that are out there just trying to make themselves famous off of other people's glory instead of doing it themselves. And so, yeah, we had cameras and we had people that were trying to do that on a smaller scale. But now the magnifying glass is on you so much, and that social media makes it just exorbitantly the type of exposure that you have, but also there's a benefit to that, because guys are able to really expand the type of money that they can make and expand their portfolios, so that when they retire, the transition to regular life is a little bit easier, because hey, everybody knows me, I have my reach, and I can monetize that. So, it's the good and the bad.
Yeah, Nick and I always have this discussion because, back in the era of no social media, you just had your game to prove that you were, you were allowed to be on that court. But now, like you said, with the social media, you don't even get to play yet, and people know you, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's good, he's a player. But, that's one thing that I appreciate about that docu, is that even my 4-year-old now is like appreciating, Michael Jordan, the players back then. And, that's something that needs to be addressed, because, those were, like, you guys were you really showed what hard work was all about. It wasn't just posting a pretty picture of you playing on the basketball court, right? So going back, let's talk about when you were when you were done with the NBA, you traveled to 12 different countries to play basketball. How was that experience? And one of them was, of course, the Philippines.
Just kidding. I love it. But honestly, that's part of my leadership training. And I would have loved to have signed a multi-year NBA contract, made millions of dollars. But my journey took me and exposed me to different cultures, religions, races. And I think that's really where my leadership evolved, and that's what I try to share with people, because right now it's a global market. You're not in America just dealing with Americans. You're dealing with all different religions, creeds. And so I was fortunate to play in Israel. I was fortunate to play in Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Syria, Philippines, France and Greece and Italy. Places where you had different ways of doing things, and that you had to adapt. And that's what leadership is about, is being able to have that empathetic understanding of what other people are going to have compassion and be able to tap into that to inspire them to achieve the level that they probably didn't know that they could achieve. And if you're just concerned about yourself and what you can do and what you can offer, and you don't listen to other people, you're not able to do it. So I really credit my ability, as a leader, and most of the things in my leadership skills that I trained through my exposure to different cultures throughout the world. And on top of that, you get to travel the world for free on someone else's time. So I'm very fortunate and blessed, with my past and being able to stay in 12 countries.
So which country was the best one?
Well, I enjoyed the Philippines because my wife, was half Filipino, and my daughter was there. But I'd say outside of Europe, who can say no to Italy? Probably my favorite place was Israel. Because it was. It's the center of activity. So much going on. Yeah, it's really hot with all the conflict. They just had amazing history and people, and you have from all over the world in this tiny little. and it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It was pretty amazing to be able to live there.
So, Stephen, I'm pretty curious, and I'm sure a lot of people are curious on how did you motivate yourself through your daily schedules, living in different countries. Like, I'm pretty sure you have your ritual that you would have, or a habit that you would do when your days are feeling off. What would you share with everyone when it comes to those moments?
Well, one thing I'll say is that regardless of who you are, being a professional athlete or ESPN, I have days where I struggle. I've had times when I've been out of protection after I from playing basketball, like professional players. I struggled with depression, and so some of the things that I would try to do was really meditate. That's something that I learned to do after I played, was I got into meditation, and that really helped a lot. Trying to center yourself and to be in the moment. I think that's where you get in trouble when you have anxiety or different things. Is you're trying to do too much, and that's probably the biggest thing I've been able to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, especially right now, people like to hear these type of stories where you're experiencing probably a similar thing that they are. And, it helps that you're sharing and being transparent about that. But I have someone here to lighten up the interview that you'll probably be happy to see.
Maybe not.
So let's welcome Mr. Velasco. How are you? Are you happy to see Stephen?
What up?
My man.
So this is the main reason why. You?
So Mafae, are you familiar with the term "outkick your coverage"?
No, why?
So in the U.S., in football, if a kicker outkick your coverage, then that means that it's very far and just really above and beyond them. For a guy like Nick, say with his marriage, way out coverage. So Nick, you're the man. You are the man forever. Yeah.
I got you, man.
So if nobody knew this, Stephen played for San Miguel back in what year, guys?
2000.
So these two have known each other for that long and are really close, have been catching up and been in touch so many years. And thanks to Nick, that's how I was able to meet Stephen. And now he is inspiring you all on this platform. So I'm sure, Nick, you've got a few questions for Stephen on what he's been up to and what he can share with everyone here.
Well, first and foremost, when are you going to take all that stuff off your feet? It's a little thick.
I knew you guys were not going to be serious about this. Go ahead.
Honestly, it's probably not going to be long enough, because I was just looking at it, and I'm like, there's a lot of maintenance and, kind of screen, so this might be my last, type of telecast with the it was cool. I started in November, and so I've had it for a minute. This is long as I've ever had facial hair, and I let it get a little long, but I think this is about it. What do you think about the rest? I know you can't do this anymore, Nick. What do you think about the other part? Oh, boy.
Hey. It's all good. If I could do it, I would.
You've had the same haircut ever since.
Yes.
Nah,
so
he never had like that. He had a little part right here, like Larry Johnson. He was cool.
Let's bring it back to San Miguel days. How was that playing together?
I had a blast playing at San Miguel. That was probably one of my more enjoyable playing experiences. And Nick and I had a great work. He was probably one of my favorite guys to play with. We would go together after practice, and we would talk a lot. And So I really enjoyed San Miguel, and I would have time to play. I would have to catch up on what's going on at home, USA Today. So it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. But that was the first time you've been here, right?
Who can say about that?
It was your first time coming to the Philippines?
Yeah, it was. And like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted my wife at the time, Filipino, and she was born. So I thought it'd be fun. So, yeah, I'm just waiting on Nick together to get me back. Go back out there. My daughter, so something to come out there.
Yeah, let's claim it. I'm gonna bring you out here, Stephen, and meet your daughter too, so that we can have a big leadership seminar.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah. That's one thing that I want to collaborate with you with. But I have a few questions here for you. How has basketball influenced your leadership skills?
It's influenced it a great deal because we've all had coaches that have a type of leadership that is positive and negative, and we've played on teams that are bad. A lot of my leadership from my experiences in basketball, from leaders that I've had in basketball, playing with Hall of players like John Stockton, coaches like Jerry Sloan last month. Phil Jackson, Pat Riley. Most of my leadership come from basketball, and even type of leadership, Kerr, Popovich, who I was exposed to as well. So, yes, everything is coming from basketball.
Mm-hmm. And that's what Nicholas says.
I just want to jump in real quick. Stephen's probably the only academic All-American that I've ever known in my life.
See, I told you, Stephen. So proud of you.
Well, I never knew that somebody's super smart, like a brainiac. See how big his head is. So a lot of brain in there. Can actually be a
positive for some. So gotta house that big noggin.
No, but it is inspiring. I always use Stephen as an example when I talk to kids or talk to my own kids. That you can be a super athlete, superstar, and get good grades. And it all comes back to how somebody's upbringing is. So that's a huge credit to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
They raised you right.
And that's what he mentioned earlier.
I think that last picture was in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
With me and my daughter. When we went to the Thousand Islands when I was out there.
Yeah, you guys have to come back again soon. So, did your daughter follow your footsteps on playing basketball or any sport?
I have a funny story about that. My daughter played volleyball at Wake Forest, and transferred to Cal Berkeley and played volleyball for the season. Never played basketball except for 1 year in high school. And it was so funny. He called me. He goes, Dad, you know you can switch defense. And I go, don't tell anybody. Like basketball. She didn't play me because I really like ball. I feel that's one switch for that allows you to stay girls, stay female, and so I enjoy that. My younger daughter plays volleyball as well. She plays both right now. We're open to keep her up.
So, I want to talk about your leadership workshops or your events. How do people sign up, or do you visit certain schools or venues for people to know about your company?
Actually, I'm about with a virtual module. Once I do that, on and there's now it's basically mostly one-on-one consulting and go to organizations, and do a keynote or consult on leadership on an individual basis. But pretty soon I'm going to have a virtual. I'll be able to have Zoom training and take home materials and work on it. I'm really excited.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
When you were playing basketball overseas, how did you get in touch with the news from back home? Like, how did you keep yourself updated with current events back at the crib?
Well, see, you weren't because that's what was going on. Basketball, on the USA Today. And that was really fun. In the Philippines doing that practice that I didn't to have. I always had you. When I was playing, you're talking about how to at home when I was over.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different these days. I remember back in the 90s and 2000s, we had to have newspapers. We had USA Today. It was like gold. If Ron Jacobs would have his USA Today every single day, we would all be fighting over it. Who's going to take it home?
Yeah, well, it would really be the USA like a couple of days. It wasn't a USA Today. But yeah, that was all we had. And you have internet as prevailing as it is now. Hard to get connected. So really, you just have those. That's how you would keep up. So makes it a lot more. Players nowadays have a little bit easier. That, connection with the internet and really use their phone.
Yeah, and one of the bad things about the era we played in is we don't have all the videos of the plays we made, or I dunked on so many guys, but I have no video tape up. Nowadays, these kids, they got every single video, every practice, every pickup game, everything's documented. So one video that I wish I could find when I think you were playing for Lebanon. And I was playing for the Philippines team. And one of my teammates started to beef with you on the court. And somehow he ended up dragging you across the court by your foot.
Really?
You don't remember that?
Uh-uh.
It was Enrico Villanueva. He dragged you for whatever reason. You were laying on your back, and he grabbed your foot and started dragging you across the court. And you just went like this, and your hands back, and you went along for all right.
That sounds like you got hold of that.
So
but go ahead.
I want to talk on a line with you. Nick was mentioning about how did you keep in touch with news in the States as an NBA player. How did you have time to spend with your family, or how was that? How was that scheduling?
When I was in the NBA?
Yeah, considering that you guys have a game like every other day, it seems, or every week.
It wasn't as difficult. Really, the NBA. I was only married 2 years when I was there. So pretty much I would go back to my and just really. And you don't have anything to do, so you really practice and play a game. And once you play a game, practice. So you have a lot of free time. It's good because when you're free and you're bored, that's what I do. So playing family and friends. I play.
One thing that's difficult as an athlete is you have to put so much time and effort in keeping your body on point, and keeping your skills on point. So that to me was heavy. Because as soon as you relax just a little bit, someone's going to take your spot. You're going to lose your spot. So you can't let up ever. I always tell people it's like having to run and jump as fast as you can and as high as you can every single day. And doing it for multiple years. How many years did you play, Peter?
Yeah, I agree. You know, I had a 15-year contract, and so you know, I always knew that I wasn't ready. Then someone would take my spot, and I think that's one of the things that allowed me to go long. Was the fact that I couldn't rest on a year contract. I had to perform, so I could even get hurt. I was fortunate because if I did and was out for a long time, I'd have to miss. So it definitely kept those. I'm gonna try to just thrown in one, get rid of that replay. Because Nick is even going up. It's hollow.
It's all right. We'll.
See, one thing about academic All-Americans, they don't know anything about technology.
Well, tell me why you're.
It's all about books. It's all about books.
Well, I can't fix your echo over there. So hold on, I gotta turn it on real quick.
But we make it work, guys. You can hear each other, right?
Yeah. You're the only one that's clear.
Okay.
But that's all good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, how's that? Oh, we're still hold on. Okay, how's that?
It has that super hi-fi stereo system in his mouth. You know how NBA players do it. Probably got it for free too.
Wait, say that again. I didn't hear.
He said that
you got that super high-tech stereo system in your house, just blasting like all NBA players do.
No, I mean, it's just yeah. I use the same yard that you guys do. I think it's that you guys don't have your headphones. Do y'all ever have reverb like this?
I don't have
with other people. Do you guys ever use one in the States?
Maybe, but I think it's the same. Most of the same.
But I think it's maybe the circumference of your head is throwing things off, it's bouncing off the walls.
I think it's on New Frontier with Captain Picard and Star Trek. I think that might be it as well.
All right. Let's get back to getting serious. So I know I've had this discussion with Nick, and I also see it watching other pro athletes that you are blessed when you play more than 3 years, or you are blessed when you reach 3 years, right? So for both of you, especially you, Steven, you have played more than that, and you've reached NBA level and also traveled around the world. What is the secret, or what is the motivation that you have to have this like amazing career in the basketball world?
Well, I think one of it was just like I just mentioned about the fact that I didn't have these multi-year contracts, and so every year I was always trying to get better, and I was always trying to evolve as a player. And I think people who aren't successful in any walk of life become complacent, and that's part of my leadership protocol is that I kind of treat everything on a one-year plan. And after that 1 year, I reassess, see areas of improvement that I need to work on, try to improve upon those, and then just take that kind of self-audit of where I am at that time, and then just go from there. But to me, if you're not growing, you're dying. And the second that you think that you've arrived, there's going to be somebody else that's going to come that's behind you, that's hungrier than you are, that's going to take your spot. Particularly when you're playing a sport like basketball, where everybody wants to play. And to your point, I mean, the average career in the NBA is, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years. So to be a player that wasn't drafted to play 3 years and to have a pension in the NBA is pretty rare. As far as Nick playing, as long as he did, I've read a lot of reports that have said that I extended his career like 5 years when he played with me. So you're welcome. But yeah.
I had no problem getting on your back all the way to the bank. No problem at all.
I did have to do a lot of after I left playing with Nick because my back did hurt so much from carrying him. But
I had no problem riding that back. But we had good times.
Yes, we did.
I got spoiled early in my career because I got to play with Ron Jacobs, Young Chico, and that whole San Miguel organization. So they know how to win, and they taught me how to win so young as a pro player. So I was really frustrated every other team I went to after that. And we had the resources to get top-notch imports like Lamont, Steven, Turkmont, so we had it good in our San Miguel days.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize is that the line between winning and losing is really microscopic, and people just think, oh, it's so easy to win. But the ability of teams to win and to get a group of talented players and meld them into a team that has one focus, one goal. Because when you're professional, everybody wants to score. Everybody wants to get all the rebounds. Everybody wants to be a star, but you can't do that. You can only play 5 players. And so, you really have to have a group that has that common focus, that common goal. And we had that at San Miguel. We always knew there's a prize at the end of the tunnel. And, fortunate to play with, great competitors. And a coaching staff that knew how to get the best out of all the individuals on the team.
I have a question. I remember back in the day you told me a story about you were flown to an NBA team for a tryout, and they made you do some sprinting, and you were like, look, just give me my plane ticket. I'm not going to make this time. So I always use that story when I talk to players, young professionals or even kids. Can you tell us that story? Go into that a little bit. I thought it was pretty interesting.
So that was actually after I left the Philippines, and I went to go to the New York Knicks, and it was the best situation in the NBA. Patrick Ewing had just gotten traded to the Supersonics. They had all this. They had maybe 3 or 4 spots. And so I get there, and Jeff Van Gundy, who's a disciple of Pat Riley, he was the coach there, and he was notorious for just working guys hard. And so he had this workout that you had to do before you were able to get to training camp, and I forget what it was called, but you would have to run up and down for 10, and then you'd get a minute's rest, and then you'd have to do it for 8, and then you'd get like 45 seconds rest, and then you'd go and you do it 4, and then 6, and then 4, and you had to continue to do that. And I remember first day after I was in game, I was in training camp, and I remember getting against the wall, and I wanted to tell the coach, like, hey man, I can't do it. Just give me the ticket. But fortunately, I worked with the trainer, and I came after practice, and I rode the bike every day, and I finally got in shape. And then after that, I was able to get in shape for training camp, and ended up getting it going with that. But yeah, that was the toughest training camp I'd ever been a part of. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy was a guy that I always tell people was someone that was in most need of a hug, because he was just an angry human being, which is funny because you watch him on TV, on ESPN, and he's hilarious. But I remember going to practice in the morning, and you could tell he had slept at the gym because he had these huge bags under his eyes. His hair would be all disheveled, and then he would walk in, and yeah, I really had to be in shape for that.
So let me ask you another question. Yeah, once you mute, it's okay. But let me ask you another question. I was so impressed with Ron Jacobs. I learned so much from him early in my career, like I said. Who would you compare him to in the NBA? And do you think he was at that level where he could have coached in the NBA as a head coach?
Did I work with him?
Ron Jacobs.
Oh,
yeah.
Was he the assistant coach?
Yeah, he was the older American coach we had that was running the whole
the
show.
Every Dog Has His Day.
Yeah. So that's one story that me and Steven keep alive is that one saying snaps us back to that moment where Steven and Ron had this big argument, and it ended with Ron saying, "Hey, every dog has his day."
Right. I didn't really have much experience with him. Everything that I really heard about him was through stories, and he was more of a consultant to Coach John. So I really didn't know much about him. And so it's hard to say that someone like that would be able to come to the States and that would translate to the NBA, because the NBA is so nuanced. It's so different. And there's so much advanced scouting and there's so much game preparation for individual players. And you have to really be on top and on point as far as your execution. And, the level of basketball play in the Philippines is good, but it's not on the level of the NBA. And so I don't know if it could have translated as a head coach, but I'm sure as like a consultant, and because he definitely had a great basketball mind and he knew what he was doing and he knew what he was talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you didn't spend as much time with Ron Jacob. With us, when Ron was running the show, he was guiding Coach John the whole way. Go ahead, Mafae. You got it.
I want to ask Steven about being an NBA analyst. Of course, you were once the player that you were, that was on the court, and transitioning into being an analyst, was that easy?
Absolutely not. It was so difficult. One of the most difficult things that I did, because when I was playing in Saudi Arabia when I got a call from ESPN, and they left a message on my house phone saying, "Hey, we're going to give you a try." And they gave me 2 games, and I called all of my friends that were in TV, and I was like, "Hey, help me out." Nobody would help me out. Finally, a former teammate of mine told me to call Stephen Bardo, who was working with ESPN, and I called him, and he gave me, kind of like a playbook of, "Hey, talk to this guy. He's my friend. Tell him you know me, and you want to do this during your telecast." But there's nothing, it's like studying playing basketball, and then all you do is watch basketball, and then you go to an arena and they put you in a game, and all you've been doing is watching it on TV. You're just like, wait a second, you're just trying to, figure it out. And I remember that first game that I called, I was so bad, because I remember I had all these notes and the game's going, and I'm looking down and I'm looking up, and I'm just like, man, they are moving way too fast. And finally, I just realized, like, hey, either you're going to look at your notes or you're going to watch the game. But there's this whole learning curve that you have. And I remember even when they were on the free throw line the first time, and I'm, announcing like I'm a golf analyst, and I'm like, okay, they're on free throw line. They nearly need to make this basket. It's really important. And then I'm thinking, like, why am I whispering? They can't hear me. It's an arena that's so loud. And so, fortunately, I had 2 games that were back to back, because I really do believe that if I had a game like on a Sunday and then the game the following Sunday, they would have been like, whoa, wait a second. This dude here is garbage. He does not need to do the next game. But my play-by-play guy after the game said, hey, you're a funny guy. You've got a lot of personality. Tomorrow just be yourself, be funny, just let's just go and just talk about basketball. It was still difficult the next day, but I was a little bit better. And then, you know, I just kept growing and growing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. That guy right there, Dave Raymond, he announces for the Texas Rangers, and we have a really good score. And you know, have a lot of fun when we call games, which makes it really enjoyable. And that's when I was doing studio with the Pelicans, which was fun. And that's the guy that told me to call Stephen Bardo, David Booth. He was my teammate at DePaul, and he actually just got a job as a VP of NBA. So really excited for him.
Wow. I played with David Booth in 1997 out here in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was young and skinny. I see that picture of him now. He put on some weight.
Well, when he played at DePaul with me, he was, I think, 175. He used to wear a T-shirt, and I mean, the wind would blow, and you know, he would just get caught with wind and just would go. But I mean, the dude could score like nobody's business. I mean, I've never seen anybody score like him. You know, obviously, you know, guys like Michael Jordan and whatnot, they could score, but you know, that dude there could put it up. And you have to have a special mindset to be able to shoot and score like guys like that, because you know, you can't care whether or not you miss. And I had that when I played overseas, but when I played in the NBA, and that's one of the things that I could have done better in the NBA, I didn't have that mindset playing in the NBA.
Hey, next time you talk to him, tell him I said hi. See if he remembers me.
Yeah, I'll tell him after I get off here, because we text and talk all the time.
So speaking about the mindset, what would you tell your younger self if you had a chance?
Shoot the ball.
Yeah. Shooters are going to shoot, and I definitely would tell myself that. I think one of the things, like nowadays, everybody is so focused on mentality and mindset, and I was doing things that I didn't know that I was doing. Like, one of my strong points about my game was just my mental ability and my mindset and my training. Like, my training was more difficult than the actual season. But I think the one thing that I would tell myself more would just, and it would be more with the NBA, would be just to be yourself and play. Because the people that, you know, are successful are the ones that they know this is what they can do, and then they go out there and do it. Because when I played for the Jazz was a great system organization, and they would get guys that fit into the system. And so I would totally lose all of my abilities that, you know, I had when I played overseas, of being able to score and handle the ball and, you know, shoot from the outside. And I would just become this system guy. And, you know, I would go from a guy that I would get as many shots as I wanted to, you know, you might get 4 or 5 shots and you need to make sure you make all those. And I had the ability to do that. But I just didn't trust myself as much. And so that would be the biggest thing that I would tell myself, that, and just not to be afraid to fail, which I haven't been in my history. People lose that, and you get a little gun shy, and you try to make that safe move. And if you believe in yourself and you have that confidence, you know, you can make anything happen.
So in line with that, of course, you know, we're going through a challenging time, you know, during this quarantine. Was there anything that you learned new about yourself?
Oh, you're muted.
I was built for the pandemic. Let me just get that out the way, because I've never had a problem being alone and staying at home. And so all these people and all my friends would tell me the same thing, you know, because like when I was studying for my master's, I would just, you know, be at home and focused, and you know, I might not leave the house for, you know, 2 or 3 days, you know, other than going to the gym and, you know, going to pick up my daughter. And so that's something I already knew about myself. But when you take that away and you say that you can't do that, then it's a little bit different, because you always want to do what you can't do. But pretty much, you know, I've always been a pretty introspective guy. And, you know, when you're alone a lot, you have a lot of times to kind of look inside and to see, your positives and negatives and your deficiencies. And so I've always been kind of keen on that. But yeah, that's probably one thing I realized that I knew is that, for a pandemic, I'm ready for that. Now I just got to get ready for the zombie apocalypse and I'll be ready to go.
So, hey, how about a time in your career? Well, where'd he go? Oh, there you go. How about a time in your career when you had to reinvent yourself? Like reinventing yourself is a big thing to me. I feel like throughout my career, I had to change my game so much. I even got older and slower, so I had to adjust my game when that happened. And then when I retired from basketball, I had to evolve into something else in a corporate setting. So how about tell us a story about how you reinvented yourself in your lifetime?
Wait a second. I did not.
You're all good.
Hold on. I wasn't able to hear you guys on that. Something happened with the audio.
So just tell us about a time when you had to reinvent yourself.
Can you repeat that?
So, like in my career, I had to change my game. I had to start shooting from the outside. I got slower. I got less athletic. Everyone has to evolve with their physical abilities.
Okay, there.
And then after that,
wait, say that again. I can hear you now. Say it again.
So he's messing with me right now.
No, I really couldn't hear you.
No, it's everyone has to reinvent themselves, right? So you got to evolve. Your body changes. You might play for a different team. They expect something different out of you. You get slower. You're less athletic. And then maybe for me, I stopped playing basketball, so I had to evolve into another career. So tell us an example of how you had to go through that in your life.
Well, one of the things that I was kind of built for that is, like I said, playing, 15 years and traveling all over the world, I had to transition to new teammates and new experiences every year. And I might be playing in Saudi one year and then Israel another year. And then during that year, play in the Philippines for 3 months. And so in that regard, I was kind of already built for transition. But then, when you stop playing, and I tell people when you stop playing basketball, because I was 37 when I retired, and it was like losing a part of your body. And, I could tell the time of the year by what I was doing training wise. Like if it was August, I was ramping it up. I was hitting the hills. I was doing track. I'm doing a lot of shooting. But then you look around and you're not doing that. And like most players, I went through that same transition. I remember 3 years into working for ESPN, my playing weight was between 245 and 255. I'd gotten all the way up to 285. And I remember I was getting ready to leave the hotel to go to the arena, and I couldn't button my pants. And I used my belt to keep my pants, and I just didn't button it. And I remember thinking, like, look, either you're going to get in shape or you're going to have to buy a whole new wardrobe. Little did I know, probably buying a new wardrobe would have been a little bit cheaper because, to hire a trainer and start to eat right, that costs a lot, but I felt better. And so that was a huge transition for me, just trying to fit into the world. And I call this like the real world. Playing professional sports is not the real world. And so I had to find my place. And I feel like I'm still transitioning into this real world right now. But transitioning into that, learning how to be a broadcaster and an analyst, and learning how to, work in studio, learning how to, when you're an analyst, you have to be succinct and you have to get your point out in 10 seconds, 5 seconds. So there's that growth and evolution that you have to do. And then, right now I'm still part of that evolution with my master's and, the leadership, reinventing myself that way. And now I'm focusing a little bit more on speaking and doing keynotes and things like that, and empowering the youth. And so, I love it because whenever I get into a new arena or challenge myself into doing something that I'm not comfortable with, and I get out of that comfort zone, really that's when you feel alive, because when you conquer something new and you're able to achieve that and to, put your imprint on either an event or with people, that's the only time that I've ever been able to feel that excitement that I had when I played basketball. So, yeah.
And I think that's the most rewarding when you finally feel that true happiness, right, Stephen? And then you're sharing it with other people. So, before we wrap up, Nick, do you have any more questions? I know Stephen has his precious time that we're taking away from him.
Well, yeah, I got one thing. Recently, we got a new president of our company. His name is Dennis Valdez, and he laid it on us real quick when he came into the company and started initiating meetings with everyone. He has three things that have to be in place for you to be able to work with him, and for things to go smoothly. And what are your three things? Like, maybe three pillars of your life that you live by. I think you being such an inspiration and being so successful, not only in academics, but in sports, obviously there's a formula. So what are the three things in your career and your life that you stick to that really make you successful?
Like I mentioned earlier, confidence, because I don't think you do anything well without confidence. And then after that, you have to have commitment. You have to be committed to it. And then the third is consistency. You don't want to be that one-hit wonder. And the people that are successful in life are the ones that are able to have that confidence, display that commitment, but have that consistency. When you look at McDonald's, they don't do anything great. But the hamburger you get in San Francisco, you're going to get in New York, you're going to get in Paris. What they do better than anyone else, and they do it consistently. And the fourth thing that I'll add to that, which really, none of those will work without that, is that execution. And that's what I really learned from playing with the Utah Jazz, because, we played in the NBA Finals, and you look at that team that we had, we weren't the most athletic. You had, Hornacek guarding Michael Jordan. He was playing on one knee. You had a lot of pieces that you put into a system. And that's another way that, McDonald's and those type of organizations are successful, because they execute on every day, every night. You look at Google, they were successful as a search engine, and they were the best search engine. And then they expanded to other things. But before they went to other things, they were the best search engine in the world. And they were consistent in that. And so having those things of, first you get that confidence, then to get that, you have to be committed. But that execution, and that's where a lot of people fail, is they do things a couple times, they don't have that consistency, and they don't execute. Without that execution, if you're 4th and 1 and you don't execute to get into the end zone, you're not going to succeed. And if you don't execute, when you have a sale or a speech, then what are you doing? And so those are the things that I like to live by, and kind of the four cornerstones of my foundation, both personally and professionally. And, I try to espouse that every day and live that. And, like I mentioned earlier, evolve as much as I can.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm like speechless.
Wait, can I say something? Because I've seen you, Mafae, and like all the things that you do, with your models and your empowerment that you do, so like you're really killing it. And I look at a lot of the things that you do all the time on your Instagram, and you're really inspirational. So both of you guys, the way that you've evolved into the things that you've done really is commendable and inspirational. And that's another reason why I want to get my daughter out there so she can meet you. And, I love having strong female role models for my daughter, and you definitely are one of that. So, kudos to both of you guys.
Thanks, Stephen. For sure, I want to meet her so that I can share with her the goodness of being a woman. But anywho, like I said, I'm gonna claim it, guys. Watch out for Steven. He will be coming to the Philippines sooner or later after all of this said and done, and we will have an amazing workshop with him, so you can learn his cornerstones, his key. Wise words that he is sharing here. And I appreciate you, Stephen, for taking the time to be part of my platform to inspire others. I'll make sure that your social media handles, your website links to your leadership workshops is here so that people can check it out. I'm sure Stephen is more than happy to answer any more questions or ask for advice from him, especially at this time. And with that, guys, with everything that Stephen said, it's all about taking action. It's all about reinventing yourself, knowing your true self, keeping yourself relevant, and having some me time. For him, it was a lot of hard work, learning about himself and being successful on what he has achieved in his life. He did mention that it's not easy, but you just have to, know yourself, be in love with yourself, and know that there is hope. So with that, guys, actions speak louder than words. And thank you for tuning in on another episode of In Love With Me. Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching In Love With Me series.